What happens when three blokes, one nihilist, one Christian, one spiritual, discuss a topic? You are about to find out. Welcome to the chat about everything, where no topic is off limits, no opinion sacred, and curiosity means more than being right. Well, sometimes. And we don't always agree. Oh gosh, we don't. We don't claim to have all the answers, but we're willing to explore the questions for entertainment and informational purposes. No intention meant. Just for you, dear viewers. And today on the chat about everything we're diving into is identity chosen. So if you enjoy real conversations and challenging ideas and hearing different perspectives, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share, because all of that stuff really helps us, and we'd genuinely love to hear what you think. So guys, topic: is identity chosen?
That was one of your questions, Tim. So why don't you start the conversation?
I could do, or after that little bit of an intro and my internet problems, I might kick back and just be a little bit more quiet today. But what is identity then, chaps? Let's confirm some terminology before we have a conversation. What is identity?
I guess identity is sort of made up, isn't it? But it's like who we think we are.
That's part of your ego then. Going back to last week's conversation, we spoke of ego, and your ego is the persona that you project and you want to receive in your entitlement. So it's an aspect, your identity is an aspect of your ego, surely.
Possibly. Yeah, but I guess there's also deeper parts than that, like, you're a father, a brother, a son, things like that. Then you've got your work life, you might be a carpenter or a whatever. And then there's your interests and hobbies, and then it's like all of that together, I suppose.
Yeah, that's your outgoing person. That's your outgoing ego, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that ego and identity could be interchangeable.
No, it's an aspect of it, I think, because
it's an aspect.
An aspect. If we take those three criteria that we looked up last week of what your ego is, which was your perceived identity, and your identity that you project, and your entitlement, which it's your perceived identity. That's the first one. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. I've just Googled, is ego and identity the same? It says no, ego and identity are not the same, though they are closely linked. Identity is the collection of labels, values, and traits you use to define who you are. The ego is the internal voice, protective mechanism that desperately tries to validate, protect, and maintain that identity.
I mean, not putting a spanner in the works, but obviously that's been written by a human or maybe artificial intelligence, and that doesn't really understand what all these things are. And you said a very important point. These things are made up. The ego makes a lot of things up. Our identity is made up by our memories, our experiences, our relationships, our values, and that generates a sense of self, and that self is a very flimsy concept in itself. That's a weird phrase, isn't it? The self is a flimsy concept in itself. But that's why I say they're kind of interchangeable. They're not exactly the same thing, but they're definitely linked.
I think, I mean, if we go back, like I said, if we go back to how we defined it last week or the week before, there was three aspects, wasn't it? And I think the first aspect is what your identity is, what you project. How you see yourself, how you want others to see you.
Yeah, it's partly our values, the ones that we hold and the ones that we want people to see of us, which dictates any choices that we make.
Yeah, I mean, for example, on my Facebook, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a businessman, I'm a scuba diver, and that sort of thing. That's my identity, and they're not in order. In fact, that's order of preference for me, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I put on various social medias off the top of my head, but psychotherapist, coach, father, friend,
Yeah, that's what I put friend as well.
Musician, all sorts of things, really. Yeah, developer, uh, youth worker, lots of things. Did I choose those as identities? I suppose I chose the work that I do, and that is a common form of identity, isn't it? Because one of the first questions you ask somebody when you're at a party is kind of like, "And what do you do?" You know, nobody really says, "How are you being? What sort of person are you?" They
I
say,
hate that expression. I say when people say, "What do you do?" I go, "I." The first question I ask is, "Where do you go on holiday last?"
"Right, okay."
I'm not interested in what they do for a job. I think that's just so you're already pigeonholing somebody straight away. It's such a cliche opener. I think.
What belief are you holding that makes you feel like
Yeah, yeah. I just don't think it's relevant at all to a person. I think it's just. I mean, what do you do? And again, it's an occupation. I say, what is your occupation? I'd rather than what you do. You do a lot of things, but how you occupy your time. Unfortunately, some people do what they have to do. There may be, might sit on the tills in Asda or Tesco or wherever, and I can't. That's not really who they are at all. I think a better way would be is like, where did you go on holiday last? Where are you going on holiday this year? Gives an indication of what they want to do, how they value their life, because they're spending all their good money or in their free time on, what they, and I think that's more of a poignant question rather than what do you do or how you occupy your time. I think that.
So you
Definitely.
think that's more relevant where they spend 1 week a year than
Yeah.
where you literally spend 40% of your whole life?
Yeah. Well, 50% is in bed or more, and then quite often people do jobs that they don't enjoy. So, and that doesn't. That's not good, and that would take up what 80% of their waking 80% of their life doing a job that they don't enjoy and sleeping a lot of the
I've
time.
just
So,
I've just reflected that I've never heard anybody reply to the question of what do you do by saying I sleep a lot and I'm a slave.
that's the truth, and
Never heard
that's why I
anybody
don't
say
ask it. I think it's not important. It's such a non-event, that question. I think it's a real. I really don't like it.
Well,
Don't.
do you know what? I've grown to not like it, having doing what I do now. Like when I was in the world and I was a carpenter, you get a lot of approval from people saying, "Oh, I'm a carpenter." They go, "Oh, you'll never be out of work." "Oh, can you hang this door for me?" or some bollocks. And it's like, but now I'm like working online. It's like I don't really know how the fuck to answer that anymore. To be honest, it's like I just do stuff, man. Like I'm just out here. So
Yeah, it's a shit question, isn't it? Really. Excuse my French, but
But
yeah.
it enforces the system, doesn't it? It's like, oh, we just all accept that we all have to do something, and it's like, if
Well,
it's
it
not,
pigeonholes somebody, doesn't it? If you say I'm a carpenter, the thing that comes to mind is he's wearing site trousers and he's got power tools on him, and he works on a site. I mean, then that's what he does all day. And people they're already sort of classified you there straight away and think, do I now associate myself with such a person? You think,
but it is quite a telling one, though, John.
But it's interesting because I remember there was someone told me that one of their friends was an accountant. I thought, your choice of friends must be that's slim pickings, that is, because an accountant can't be much fun. Do you know what I mean?
What?
I
You're judging people by the exact same standard that you just
exactly,
lay down.
exactly, and exactly. And I was like, I said, I caught myself straight away. I said, I shouldn't really be saying that. And they said, no, because that person's just behind you. And I was like, oh, really? So, but
it is quite telling, though, John.
Yeah.
In Guess Who, where you try and ask the question that reveals the most.
Yeah.
Like, what question can you ask that is like reveals more than that? I'm sure there are some, but that's a pretty big one. Like, it literally reveals how you spend most of your time. you know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. But another good question is this: how would you describe yourself without telling me that where you live and what you do for a job?
You just use any positive adjective like legend or geezer.
Yeah, you could do.
I prefer that as a question at a party. I think a really deep one to people is like, tell me about who you've been all your life. Not what you've done, but who have you been all your life, and that kind of, it barks up the same tree, doesn't it? But we're kind of creeping away from the overall question, really. Identity. So from what we're saying, expanding from what we're actually saying right now, it seems as if identity is chosen for us in a lot of ways by other people, because when you walk into a room and you quickly have to identify people, I don't know why you would be in that room. Let's just say you're in a room. You need to know who's in authority, who's in charge, who's the teacher, who's the policeman, who's the plumber, who's the electrician, who's the mother, father, all that sort of stuff, don't they? Don't you?
No.
So
do you? I don't.
Well, that's what your human self, your identity tries to work out, doesn't it? It's like, who am I in relationship to all these other people?
I suppose there is when you go into a room, you sort of scan the room for. I suppose guys will scan the room and they'll find out just by appearance who the alpha male is and who the bitch is, sort of thing. Really, I suppose that's an innate sort of thing, but.
Before that, you're scanning for who's a threat and who's not. But I suppose that's
that's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the same thing. So, and again, it's I suppose if you're in a bar or a club, I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? You always look to see where potential trouble could come from. I mean, I do, because I've worked as a doorman. And I can see how it kicks off quite quickly. So you look first off, I'd be looking at where's an escape route and where's the potential trouble coming from, and that would be my first instincts. I don't even have to think about that,
And I do think pigeonholing happens though from people because we like to pigeonhole things and to categorize things, and so therefore some of our identity comes, like when I was younger, I was known as a troublemaker.
That's probably because you were, though. You did get expelled.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't really conform at school, and I'm quite I'm kind of proud of that to a certain extent, to be honest, because it means that the education system, or as I saw it at the time when I was younger, I saw it as an indoctrination system, not an education system, one that kind of like programs you, molds you, tries to fit you into things. I resisted that and it didn't really work on me. So I feel like, and I've got a lot of clarity about this recently. I feel like I do kind of challenge mainstream thinking and mainstream stuff. And
you don't like to be pigeonholed.
No, it's okay. It depends what I'm being pigeonholed as,
So you're quite selective. So you don't mind being pigeonholed, providing that you can decide on what you're pigeonholed in.
Well, to answer that question, part of me will choose what other people are assessing I am, and part of me will reject. And yes, it's mostly stuff that I find might be positive. I kind of go, yeah, they're all right about that. And that Tim is a legend. Yeah, I can get on board with that. No problem.
It's not negative.
Tim is a troublemaker and is an a-hole. I'll reject that. And I think we kind of do that. So partly partly I am choosing those aspects of identity that are seen as being me from in inverted commas outside, so other people's like evaluations. But I
That's
think
interesting because I don't. If someone says, I'm quite perceptive of how people view me, and if and that's why I sort of I'll take on board. I'll take it. Some people look at me and think I'm intimidating, and there's nothing I can do about that. And that, as much as I think no, I'm not. It's not. That's not down to me. Yeah, it's my appearance, and that's the way it is. And the size of me as well, being 6'2" and 16 stone. I don't come unnoticed. I don't sort of slip in the back door. So I have to take that, and I know that I have to be, especially meeting new people. I have to be really keep my voice low, keep calm, and talk slowly,
You ain't got to do nothing.
Because what I don't want to do is I like people to open up, and if I was to come in there all shouting and blazing, giving it all that, people just steer well clear from him, sort of thing. And I don't want to give that appearance. I don't want to project that, because that's not who I am. I mean, you've met me, haven't you, Henry? Probably for the first time, and it's very different, isn't it, when you meet somebody personally and when you meet them when you've just met them on a video. And so it's I think it is, especially if you're sort of customer facing. I mean, my identity is I just want to come across as an approachable person, really, rather than being intimidating. And I was really surprised to find that people did find me intimidating.
So doesn't that prove on some level that our identity is shaped by other people? Because it's like you're shaping it based on the way you feel you're being perceived.
Yeah.
So it's like a double act to some degree.
Yeah, it is. But you only have to look at dogs as well. You look at some dogs and you think, Christ, that looks aggressive. It's got a massive head, big jaw and everything. But really, they're quite soft,
But like perception and true identity, like, are clearly like never the same, right? Because there's a saying, isn't there, about like there's 8 billion versions of you out there, because everyone perceives you differently. So the true identity is something even separate to the way anyone sees you.
Yeah.
Even yourself.
I've always found that absolutely insane, that we evaluate ourselves by what we think other people are evaluating of us. And we never know what's inside other people's heads. So that is absolute insanity. However, we do it because
we do it subconsciously.
Well, yeah, you're social creatures, aren't you? And no matter how much you think you say,
are you not?
No matter how much you say to yourself, I don't care what other people think, and I don't let other people, dictate to me how I feel about myself, you cannot help that process happening. So I think identity is like a blend of both choice. So it is partly chosen because we choose to take on what we think. We choose to take on what other people think. We choose to take on circumstances. So like, if something happens and we're particularly good or bad at it, we'll assess and evaluate that part of our identity is good or bad about something. But you don't generally choose your given traits like your genetics or the ones that you were given at birth, but you actively shape your self-concept through your values, your careers, your social groups, and what you intentionally do over time, which is why what do you do is a fairly basic level question, because it gives you clues to how people are and who they are or what their given identity is. So there's given traits that we've got no control of, like age, place of birth, inherent biological characteristics like, I don't know, autism spectrum stuff or cultural stuff or whatever. And then there's social contexts which are the factors that are shaped by the world around us, such as people in our lives, like our family, saying, "You're bloody rubbish at this," and "Oh my God, we love you because of this," and our culture and upbringing. Yeah, does that make sense? So it's part, I think, answering the question is truly, for me, it's a blend of choosing and circumstance.
Yeah, because like you're saying, there is almost this ever-going process of like adapting and changing things and trying to, you know, mold yourself in different ways. But the beautiful thing about that is if you're in a position right now that you don't like, or you look in the mirror and you don't like the person you are, you can literally decide, hey, I'm going to be different. I'm going to do different. You can reinvent yourself at any given moment, literally. Like people become so immersed in this identity, I guess, of who they are, that they probably feel trapped by it in some way. But you can pivot at any moment, you know?
Oh, God, you're so right. Those chosen aspects of our our identity are the parts of our life that we've got active agency over.
Mm.
That includes what you do for a living, what you spend your time doing for hobbies, your political aspirations or affiliations, your personal values. That's all stuff we choose, right? So those are definitely parts of
But
our identity that we're choosing and
you're
we've got a
projecting. Yeah.
control over. And some things we haven't got control over, like being 6'2" and deep voiced or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not that I've had to deal with that because I haven't.
It's all right. It's 2026, John. You could be a 5'4" Chinese lesbian black midget if you want. That's fine,
Right.
mate. Do what
Yeah.
you want.
So is that an identity that he can choose, or is it one that is given?
But I think I think that's it's quite revealing for today. But actually, made me think that you can identify as whatever you like. You can identify as a cat, for example. You know.
Yeah, do we really believe in that though?
But some people do. You see it
Well, they
on.
say it, but we don't buy into. Well, I don't buy into that.
No, of course not.
If
I
you're
mean,
telling me you're a cat and I'm looking at you and I'm seeing a man, I'm not going to start stroking you and
but
feeding you cat food, am I? Like
I saw it on a copper pulled over a couple, and
I've seen this.
and he goes, right, can I have, he says, I identify as a cat and this is my owner. And he goes, if that's the way you're going to take it, I'm going to take you down to the pet impound and you're going to be put in a cage. Is that what you want?
Yeah, he became a man again very quickly, didn't he?
Yeah.
Almost instantly.
But nowadays, people do choose their identity, don't they? They can choose they can choose their gender, their identity. They can choose, I mean,
But no, I would argue that's not your true
even
identity.
their color. I mean, Michael Jackson's daughter identifies as black, and she looks as white as the driven snow.
Yeah, but that's a different thing, isn't it? That's like she's
Why,
not
how's
just
that
like
any different? She's choosing her
because
identity.
because of her heritage. That's not her, like that's not me fully white English turning around and saying, "Oh, I'm Mexican," when I'm just not. Like that's totally different. She literally comes from a black family. She might appear
But we
white,
all
but you
do.
can. What? No, but that's a different thing, man.
Well, I don't know. You two have gone down an interesting cul-de-sac here. That's very revealing, actually, for the conversation. I love
Yeah.
it.
But we do. I think you can. What do I don't identify as a Kel? Because I'm 60% Kel and I'm 40% Anglo-Saxon. But if you go back far enough, we all come from Africa, so we can all identify. We should all identify as human for a start. But there are some people that don't even choose that. They have their fingers like stitched together and they have their eyebrows dyed black, and it's really weird. I think, yeah, to a certain, I think if is identity chosen, I'd say it evolves a lot of the time, and we either accept it or not. And then some people, I mean, I chose, well, the reason I left the UK to go to Australia, because I was pigeonholed. And I was going down a track in my life as a doorman that was life-threatening, really. I mean, back in the 80s, there was none of the doormen were registered. It was all hooligans, and doormen were being opened up with Stanley blades or shot or anything like that. And it was like, it was getting, I was mixing with the wrong people. And that was, I wanted to change my identity, really, move away from the UK, start a new life. I wasn't happy with where it went, and I suppose people to have that throughout their life. They have their midlife crisis. There've been a lot of people, men, choosing them in their 50s to buy themselves a Porsche and be the jet set, try and be this, that, and the other. And it's and they dress in teenager clothes. I mean, what they're trying to what's their identity. They're choosing an identity there, aren't they? It's and it can go from just a haircut change like me to a complete fucking identity change where you might you chose to a different gender,
Yeah, this is
No,
interesting.
I don't believe in that, brother. Like we're talking about change. Like you've taken two levels of changing your identity there, because one of them, there's real world outcomes coming from it. You could be fat and broke and say, do you know what? I don't want this identity anymore. I want to be in shape. But you can't just keep eating Doritos and say, oh, I'm in shape now. Like, no, it doesn't. Like there's real world evidence that has to come with it for it to truly change, for it to be embodied. And it's like you can't really believe it. Like just because you feel something, it doesn't make it true. Like
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But there are people out there that don't agree with you, and the fact that it had to go to the High Court in the UK to decide what a man and a woman was is ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, John, because you probably, out of the three of us, know a little bit more about that than us two. But before you do, I just want to say we've opened the door on the elephant in the room in this conversation, because what you said earlier, John, was identity is either accepted or it's not. And I would put forward that that is the case. And also, Henry, you're kind of saying, well, there's evidence for what is true and what is not. I would suggest that actually the shades of grey are much more vivid than we think, actually, because even though you might see empirical evidence and feel as if something is true, it doesn't necessarily make it true. So, for instance, like John, if you were to tell me you are a Celt and you live your life as a Celt, I can kind of, well, for a start, I've seen you in a tartan kilt, so and you look like you've got the stature of a Celt. You, to me, you look like a Celt. I would accept that identity, no problem at all. Henry, if you told me you were Brazilian, I could also get behind that because of your ancestry, because of the way you look, stuff like that. If either of you tell me you're a cat, I'm perhaps not going to accept that because, it just doesn't feel or look right and the evidence isn't there. And by the way, I should say that this whole cat thing was blown up in the pandemic over some misinformation where there was some litter tray in schools for when people are under attack from shooters and stuff like that, and it got twisted and it got used as like, oh no, these furries are pretending to be cats, and the teachers have even given them litter trays in the schools. That never happened. So
I don't know anything about that.
You didn't hear that?
No. What was the idea of putting a litter tray in the classroom?
So that people could do a wee or a poo if they were locked in there for hours and hours because of shooters.
Oh.
Yeah, not because people wanted to identify as a cat or a dog or a rabbit.
Well, there is clearly a massive increase in that stuff as well, though.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't know.
I saw one person dressed as a fox back in the pandemic when all this blew up. I haven't really, and I know there are people out there who, change their physical, characteristics and get their eyebrows and eyes, changed and lips changed and teeth changed and stuff like that. But I don't know whether it's a massive blow up as much as we think it is because of what we're fed.
But it does. I mean, the thing is, okay, what I'm thinking already is that, you know, you can buy, girls can have hairbands on with like rabbit ears on and stuff like that. And there is that, if you go down the sort of porn, for example, there's I don't know what it is, but they sort of dress up as like with funny ears and then something on their nose and stuff. It's really odd.
It probably comes from bunny girls, doesn't it?
I don't know. But, you know, but even kids, you know, I mean, I would come out of the swimming pool the other day and there's only a little boy and he's got his Spider-Man Spider-Man little bike, and he's got his Spider-Man suit on. And it's like, I remember my daughter, she was like, when it was Frozen, you know, that movie Frozen, she was like, "Call me princess, Daddy. I'm a princess," and I'm like, "Oh my God," you know.
Yeah, what are you going to do if somebody's in a Spider-Man costume or a princess outfit? Are you going to tell them they're not? You know,
of course, you go with the flow.
Yeah, no, I would. After a certain age, it becomes unacceptable because, you know, like, when you're a child, you believe in the Tooth Fairy, you believe in Santa. Like, you can't compare children and adults and say, oh, it's the same, because it's just not. Like,
no, I'm not talking about a 36-year-old wanting to be Elsa or Anna.
Right, okay.
But there are people. There are these conventions where people go along, and it's like a Star Trek convention, and they go dressed as Spock, and it's like, really, you know, what's going on there?
So if somebody wants to play around with that identity or, you know, a characteristic, is that wrong? Isn't that just part of their identity?
No, it's chosen, isn't it? But I do think that sometimes there is, where it's on a continuum. I think where a child may choose to look like Elsa or Frozen, I can identify with it. I think that's it's healthy. And then you decide on how you want to dress. You might want to be a mod or a punk or a skinhead, or you might not. You might like to, you know, you might not identify with those social groups. But if you do choose that, that's also quite normal. But I think when it goes from to the ridiculous, where you sort of identify as a cat or a dog, or I identify as as the opposite sex, and that becomes, I think that's a mental health issue. I think personally there's an issue there. You know, I think there's a healthy identity. Like a child may choose to look like Elsa when they're 3, or Spider-Man, and a man may choose to have short hair and want to look like a businessman, or long hair and want to look like a hippie, or like, you know, for a woman likewise. But when it goes to this ridiculous, I think that's not a choice. I think that's a mental health issue.
I think it might be a social issue, actually. It might be that some people are trying to find their tribe, people like them, people where they do fit in because they don't fit elsewhere or don't feel like they fit.
But it's not even the real them, though, Tim. Like, if you're genuinely going around, and like John brought up the people that go to conventions and dress up as Spock and cats or whatever, cool. You know, it's not for me, but if you're just dressing up as it to dress up as it, that's a different thing to believing you are that thing. Like, if you truly believe you're a cat, you're just not a cat. So, like, to then, like, try and get other people to get on board with it and say, oh, no, I am a cat, trust me, it's like, there's something wrong. Like,
I hear it.
Yeah. And not only that, is this, it can get quite dark as well. You know, and I don't really want to go down that route, but there are some people convinced that what their dark, morbid ideas of what they are is completely normal. And I just don't. I think that's sickness, really. I don't know. I think for me, it was a bit of an eye opener that. For a long time, Elvis Presley was as a boy growing up, I used to love Elvis Presley. I thought he was great. But when I learned how he groomed Priscilla, his wife, his future wife, she was only 13, and he was 21. And if you bring that up as a subject on social media, you get hit straight so hard by the Elvis lovers, and they're like, back in the day it was all right, blah 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 blah. And I said, no, it's pervy, man. That's really pervy, and people really knock you for having that, just because and whether and if you go back far enough, sort of having been a concubine or having bisexual relationships and stuff like that, that was all sort of normal. But over time, what's perceived as being normal and what isn't normal changes too.
Yeah.
So what's to say, what's normal today is not going to be normal in 50, 100 years from now.
This conversation's been useful because I think it's partly chosen, it's partly given, and it is definitely accepted by us and accepted by others. Because I think
perceived,
I mean, well, all of it's perceived, isn't it? Because we are nothing other than conscious awareness perceiving stuff. So therefore, that always leads me to kind of like, well, it's all a bit.
Well, chosen and perceived is a different thing, isn't it? You might choose from one day to the next to look like this, but if you perceive yourself, it's something that it's a long-held belief, really. You know what I mean?
So, the nature-nurture argument, right? Some people can you be born evil, essentially? You've just said that it's all perception, it's all that means there's no underlying truth of it, it's all just wishy-washy to some degree, and it can all change at any moment.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't know whether
we're going down the route
that completely, but
whether nature-nurture is evil perceived, or is it? I think that's quite I think we're crossing a few things there.
No, it's linked. It's linked because
you've just your point, Henry, and then we can judge.
You've just said that it's all perceived anyway. I don't know if I believe in that because I think
not all perceived. Some of it's perceived. I mean,
okay, it's not what
you
said.
Actually, I said
no.
I was holding that it was all perceived.
He was using different words to describe what
No, I think we were talking different purposes, John, because I was actually saying it's all perceived because there is nothing other than us as an observer perceiving what we're experiencing. So therefore, it is all perceived in my perception, my view.
Okay, but if you take away the perception side of it, does that mean it's all changeable and there's no underlying actual identity? Say, I don't know, John is someone that is.
Well, I perceive myself as a white Anglo-Saxon man, right? That ain't going to change much unless I fall down and bang.
All right, but that's not actually who you are. These are just things
that's
the actual. Yeah, to a degree. I'm not saying they're not true. They are true, but I mean, the actual truth of who you are. Can you be someone that is something entirely rather than just it could just be perceived different ways? I'm not explaining what I'm trying to get to very well.
No, it's interesting because I watched the program, a 5-part series. And it's the con artist, right? How con artist works. And there was a chap. There was a French guy, and he was brought up in an orphanage, and he had this big desire to be. He was nothing. He was a nobody. He was living in poverty, and he then said he was the grandson of a Rothschild, and he mixed in with all these big personalities, and he lived his life like that. He's put on this big identity thing, and and ran with it, and people believed him. You know,
well, they accepted it, didn't they?
Yeah.
It was so.
Yeah, you know, and it's really strange, you know. And there was another guy. He was a boy went missing in America. It just vanished for some reason, and this boy picked up on it. Another down and out person picked up on it, and then piped up and said, "I am that person." Yeah, the person that was lost, who vanished, was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed young boy over the age of 7. And then 3 years later, this guy popped up, and he dyed his hair blonde. He couldn't do anything about his eyes, although they're brown. And he said, I was kidnapped and I was raped for the last 4 years, and this is I'm back." And they reunited him with his parents, and their parents took him in and said, "I knew it was you all the time." And he just lived this, you know, this persona, and because he just wanted a loving family, because it was something that he didn't have previously. So in those cases, I think, you know, it is chosen. But I think coming back to the question, is your identity chosen? I think it is a mixture of a lot of the time. I think it's, in fact, your parents have a big deal about that, a big part of that, you know.
I want to ask you guys the nature nurture question, because it really is linked. What do you guys think? Like, basically nature being, when a child is born, they are certain things, you know, like some people are just destined to be evil, to be serial killers, etc. Or is it purely nurture rather than their nature in itself? It's the things that happen to them, it's their upbringing, it's their experiences, etc.
You're not going to like my answer, because and John certainly won't, because he doesn't like me sitting on wooden fences and get splinters in my bottom. But I say it's both, because you can't deny what you're given through genetics and DNA, birth, etc. But culture, education, certainly your parents, definitely the parents' voice, like, you're this, you're that, do better at that, oh, aren't you great at that, that all becomes,
don't do this, do that.
Yeah, it all becomes a part of our accepted narrative that we internalize and take on as our identity.
We're programmed into that from our parents. Yeah,
for sure. But in those examples that you were talking about, John, and I will come back to nature nurture, Henry, both those examples of those people trying to be somebody that they're not, they had chosen an identity. They were given that identity by the people who took them in and accepted that, and it was
validated by them, wasn't it?
It was validated and accepted by everybody. So I think those three factors: the choice, the fact that you're given it, the fact that you're accepting it. So nature nurture, going back to that, you're given your nature, you choose, you know, parts of the things that you're nurtured with, and you accept it. So, like,
well, nature nurture. I mean, I'll give you an example of nature nurture. My daughter, I took my daughter over to my sister said, "Look, can you take the kids out onto the park and have a good time?" Yeah, no problem. So I took my daughter and my 2 nephews over to the park, and I took the football, kicked it up in the air, and the 2 boys went off like a rabbit, like a rocket. And they went off wanting to play. I turned around to see my daughter, and she's picking flowers. That is nature, definitely. And the nurture is, I think that, so there is, I think it's both. I would agree with you on Tim. I don't think that it isn't one or the other.
Oh God, John agrees with me. Hallelujah. That's a rarity. Nice one.
But from a nurture point of view, is that some kids are born innocent, but because of they're a product of their environment, they might have alcoholic fathers and mothers. You know, they might live in a deprived area, and they might have to go and thieve every day or beg every day. Or
only some people are born innocent. Surely everyone's born innocent.
Yeah, I believe so. Well,
Yeah,
not to a certain extent, Henry, because you can pass down genes and you have an inherent
That doesn't that doesn't make you not innocent. A baby, a
No, I
newborn
don't mean
baby.
innocent, but you've got propensity to be aggressive rather than placid. You know, there are, for example, sociopaths can learn, is a learned trait. If your mum and dad are sociopaths and you surround yourself with sociopaths, then it can be a learned trait. A good example is in the city when these traders, they don't give a flying monkeys. They learn not to worry about whose money it is, and they just trade that money until they get good at it. And you know, if some of their customers lose money, it's no biggie to them, and they have to get over it. And it's hard at first, but the more you do it, the more you build up a tolerance. It's like a soldier. When you first shoot one person, it must be absolutely traumatic. But you know, if you go out there and you're shooting people every day, it's water off a duck's back after a while. You know, so. But there are some people that are born like psychopaths, just don't have the capacity to do it. You know.
This is interesting because what it makes me think is because you said, is everybody born innocent? And I believe so. We're all born kind of innocent, and then we're nurtured. So we've got that innocent nature, and then we're nurtured, and then we learn. I think even though a psychopath or a sociopath might have a propensity for that sort of stuff because of genetics, I also think that they are innocently under a misunderstanding that makes them be a Wall Street trader or somebody who's.
But some people that haven't got enough testosterone are quite meek and mild, and some people have an awful lot of testosterone and they're really boisterous. So it is a chemical. It's what you've got in your body. You're born with that.
That can be down to lifestyle choices as well, though, massively.
You don't choose to have a lot of testosterone.
No, but you
can impact that.
Do with it. You choose like, oh, this means that I am like this or should be more like that.
I know some people are hot-headed.
That's what I mean, John, by living under a misunderstanding. So an innocent misunderstanding, because you've learned to cope or do something differently. That means, and judgment comes into that, doesn't it? You know, we kind of like look at somebody and kind of go, well, they're a bad person, but actually they might just be innocently acting under a misunderstanding that's the best that they can do.
Yeah.
I truly believe that we're told that, you know, we're set the way we're set and that you can't change things. Like a lot of our biology, I'm convinced you can change. Like a lot of the things going on internally, I think we're told that, oh, you know, you're just, things are set the way they're set, and it puts you in this little box of, oh, well, I've got the wrong genetics or something like that. I don't believe in that at all.
Yeah.
Like even your testosterone, like
I do. I agree with you. And I mean, people with a high testosterone levels tend to quite easily. Well, parents will channel it. They'll put it in. They'll put that person into rugby or football or karate or something like that, and they'll channel that energy that person has.
Or they'll chuck them out because they can't cope with it.
Yeah. There is also that. You know, but it needs the parent to be a bit more. The thing is, back years ago, 40 years ago, it was carrot and stick, you know. Do with good, and if you don't, you get beaten, sort of stuff. But we're all
the good old days.
That never worked. It didn't work out well for a lot of people, that didn't it? You know, and it was, and a lot of kids with ADHD or other sort of mental health issues grew up thinking they were stupid, really,
or naughty for sure.
Or and you know they weren't shown. It wasn't. They hadn't sort of had their parents didn't have an understanding for it, and as a result, neither did they. So they just grew up thinking, oh, you know, I'm the runt of the litter. You know, I've got an IQ 60 or 75 where everybody else is all right. and I end up in prison. They've all got like jobs in the city. So, and it turns out that it's not like that at all. It's far more complex. And we like to categorize. We do that straight away with IQ tests, and it's so messed up because the idea of the IQ test was to filter out who's going to be fodder for to go out and just so they can hose them down. Just and then you've got your officers who can manipulate, and then it was awful, and then we still use that test today, and the irony is that if you take different cultures and use that same test, you get such a mixed bag. And then you're trying to say, just because the guy from Africa, he uses a fork as a weapon, and the guy from London, he uses it as an eating implement. And I mean, the guy from London is going to get a tick, and the guy from Africa is going to get a cross. Is that right? No, of course it's not. But we're labeling people straight away. We do that throughout our inner West. We do it. We do tests. We find out are they got propensities to this, or they're like this, or are they good at football, or they got this, or they got that, and we label them and we put them, and that's how we do. And it's so limited. We're looking specifically people that are good in maths, or people that are good at running or football or sports. But what they don't acknowledge is, that some people have those, have got, don't fit into those categories, but they've got special qualities themselves, and it's missed, and people are run roughshod over, and they just have these wasted lives, and it's just such a shame because they've got qualities, but we as a society don't pick them up, and it's awful. And then they live their life with this perceived idea that they're good for nothing, but that's so not true. I mean, Van Gogh, for example, he didn't sell any of his pictures while he was alive. He made all his money when he was dead. Well, it's just crazy, isn't it, really?
Mental.
That's my rant.
No, I think you're right, and it just feeds into the fact that a lot of it is given and accepted on a societal level, doesn't it? And
as a moment in time,
moment in time. And I think in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we might even get to the point where we recognize the identity as we know it here and now as being like false. And
completely. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah,
there's so many holes in the way that we do things, and we categorize people, and also people that are driven by money. Is that a quality that we should be really nurturing? It's awful.
I mean, we've all got internalized labels that we've accepted as being defining about ourselves, which we could probably, share, but would be kind of like pointless, really, because it's made up stuff, isn't it? I mean, for instance, when I was at school, seen as the troublemaker, it's only now that I recognize that the school system wasn't fitting my needs, that I wasn't actually seen and heard for who I actually was, but I was being seen and heard for my behavior.
Were you seen as a disruptor rather than a troublemaker? I mean, they're two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, so both, because it depends on who was the seer and who was the observer. Some teachers would say, you're trouble, you'll never amount to anything, you're a waste of space, blah blah blah. Even before they knew me, and they just knew my surname and my brothers that had gone before me in the school, they would kind of single me out and decide who I might have been. And other teachers would perhaps see that as, my God, there's so much about you and we like aspects of you, but boy, you've got to fit in because you're annoying at school. It's Um, and those were the ones that would perhaps mentor me and try and help me in a different way and actually start listening or hearing me. And it was only those things don't define me, but they certainly were loud voices in my programming early on in my life that kind of like, if I'm not careful, I take it on as my identity, you know?
So would you agree there's an underlying truth somewhere that then leads people to these labels or perceptions that get people to say, "Oh, you're a troublemaker, you're a this, you're a that." There's an underlying something happening that leads people to come to these. Like they could come to totally different outcomes. We've said a million times in this podcast that these labels and perceptions are often false, but there's
Yeah.
something underlying that is true that is leading people to that.
I don't know what is true, and like let's not go down the rabbit hole of asking the question what is truth, because oh my God, that's another podcast.
Truth is what actually is.
Okay, so to answer your question in
perceived differently with different people, Henry. But anyway,
Yeah, but it's not. No, that's not truth, then, is it? It's what's perceived.
Yeah.
Truth is what actually is, not what's perceived or what.
But if enough people accept,
so we're half structures there, aren't we?
That doesn't make it true.
Well,
it's
we are
widely accepted. It's still false.
We're skin and bones. That's what we are, aren't we?
Hang on, because like enough of us have accepted that is the truth. Enough of us has accepted that the meat suits that we're wearing is our true selves. Enough of us have accepted that we are nothing but biology and that it can't be changed. But actually, there's evidence to suggest that you can change your own DNA. And in the future. That? Sorry.
Yeah, you can designer babies is happening in America already.
No, I don't mean change the DNA before designer production of babies. I mean change your fundamental DNA.
Well, yeah, you can do
that. No, that's a separate thing, John GPT. You're talking about transhumanism. All of us.
No. I mean, for example, now you can have a HPV injection with the. This the new system that used for the coronavirus. It goes in. It's actually gene editing. It goes into your system and it changes the way so that you become resilient to the HPV virus.
Right.
I've had a few of them. I've got my booster booked in.
I don't know about that, and
well, I do. It's all over the news now. How many lives they've saved.
Let me come back to the point that I really wanted to make. The question that you were asking, actually, Henry, about fundamental truths and stuff like that. My point is that if enough of us accept something is that way, then it becomes fact. And that is the case when you look at your personality, your identity, your upbringing, your life, your job, all of those things, because you've got all this information coming in that has been accepted by you and enough others to say, well, that is the truth. That is what you are. And it's the same thing when it comes to science, I'm afraid, or politics, or any sort of human theme, that if enough of you are convinced that that's the way it is, that seems to be the accepted and chosen and given way. And I don't think that's the case. And I think that's what
it's challenged all the time, isn't it?
Misunderstanding when it comes to identity.
I think that's challenged. I mean, it's certainly if you look at historians, they. Here in the West, we like to perceive that we won the war and it happened like this. But if you go to Russia, it'll be a different story. If you go to Germany, it'll be a different story. And also archaeology as well. There are some people that believe that, there's that humans that date back further than that's suggested, because of artifacts that they've found all over the world. But archaeologists go, no, it's not possible. This is the way it is, and that's and they all band together and say, "You're talking rubbish. This is the way it is." So there is that people, communities, and people and institutions close rank on things, and that's what they want. That's where it's going to go, and it's a bit it is a bit narrow-minded, and they find that's not just that, but also in science generally. That if your idea, your public, if you were to write a paper and you submit it to nature.com or some of these, these scientific journals, if it doesn't fit the narrative, today's narrative, they just reject it, and it just gets hidden, and then people just are not interested in it at all. I mean, COVID-19, it's still being rejected now. And there's so many, there are so many aspects to that pandemic that have been shown to be false or fabricated, but none of the medias and social medias and none of the mainstream medias want to accept it. They won't go down that route. And if you do try and elaborate on it, you get defunded and rejected and deplatformed and everything. So
cancel him.
And it's a yeah. We live in. We like to, I suppose, conserve the old way of thinking, and in some aspects, I think it's we don't want change. Ideally, you all want to live in a life that's free and easy, and we've got rose-tinted glasses. We look back at what it was like when we were younger and how nice it was, and blah blah blah. And we don't want, and that we wish it hadn't changed. But the true reality is it's changing all the time.
Well, if you had a childhood that you thought that about, then great for you. A lot of people don't and would have liked to have changed that. But does that answer the question that you asked, though, Henry? Coming back to that. About
his identity chosen.
About the underlying truth.
Yes.
Well, what you've both highlighted really is that just because something is considered a fact or considered real doesn't actually mean it's truth. Which we live in a world full of deception. So
yeah, it means shit, doesn't it? Really.
But when do you stop believing and when do you start believing? That's the difficult part, isn't it?
Don't stop believing.
All right, calm down.
Hold on to the feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, moving swiftly along.
On that
note. Badly off key. Okay, let's wrap this up then.
Where does it stop and where does it start?
Well, that's an impossible question to answer.
The universe? What are you referring to? What does what stop?
The truth. It comes down to Henry's question.
No, truth is truth. That truth is what is. It's not what's perceived. It's not what's accepted. It's not what the most people think. It's what it is. Even if we never figure it out, even if no one ever gets to what the truth is what actually is. It doesn't matter what brain can understand it or. Sorry?
If we don't know what the truth is.
Well, like I just said, it doesn't matter whether we know what it is. It is what it is. The truth is what is, whether it's perceived, understood, accepted.
Yeah.
It's the underlying actuality.
Who's the judicator on that then?
I don't think it needs a judicator. It's what is. We're the false judicators, but we get it wrong all the time.
Yeah, I was just wondering where that leaves us with identity. Does that mean, what does that mean about the truth of our identity, for instance?
Yeah, well, going back to identity. I mean, how many times have you changed your identity?
Fair few.
Yeah, fair few. Yeah. I've chosen many different identities. I've been given many different identities. And
I'm a squirrel at the moment, but I'll let you know in about 5 minutes if.
Well, if you're a squirrel, that just makes you nuts. No, okay. Straight above your head. Anyway. Bad joke.
No, we got it, but
it just wasn't worth laughing at.
No. It wasn't a squirrel. It wasn't Danger Mouse a squirrel or something like that.
No, Danger
we
Mouse
just lost 4 subscribers there.
It was a mouse. It was a mouse. Okay, but anyway.
Was Danger Mouse a squirrel? That's quote of the day, that is.
I don't know. I don't. It was, but yeah. It was a rat. Anyway.
John, did you
But
just say that?
what would have been relevant would have been isn't there a cartoon character that was a squirrel?
There was, yeah.
What was
Tufty the squirrel, I remember.
Tufty. Well, Tufty would have been more appropriate to Nuts, but anyway, let's move on.
He was.
No, you missed the point. We should have just called him Tufty rather than Nuts. I mean, it would have been anyway.
Well, no,
I don't know how many subscribers we had before this episode, but I don't reckon we got many now.
I think
John, that would have fallen in.
Conversation is slipping. Caffeine content is lowering. We need to up it again.
That reference, John, would have just fallen in the generation gap because Tufty was like a road safety character from like 1960s or 70s or something, wasn't it? So, or maybe 80s, I don't know.
Yeah.
Squirrel Nutkins was another one that I remember, but no one's going to remember that of a certain age, especially not Gen Z.
Well, they will now. We just call Henry Tufty.
No, Henry's. I refuse to see Henry's identity as a squirrel. It's just not happening for me. I'm not accepting it.
Respect.
Yeah,
that's true love.
That's truth. That's truth.
Yeah.
Now going back to the truth thing, I think we have established that truth is truth. But no one really knows that because we've got this perception and this experience of being a human being that comes up with all sorts of different ideas and justifies and judges everything, which leaves us in a very tricky situation of, is identity chosen? Yes, in my opinion, yes, it's chosen by us, and what is given to us and what is accepted by us.
Yeah, some people don't choose it though, do they? Yeah, but anyway.
Who? Give us an example.
No, but I think I think it's more. I don't think we choose it. I think it's pushed on us. Really, I don't think. There are some people that do choose their identity, like those examples I gave earlier of those the Rothschild and the boy. I think they've actually chosen them. I think the majority of us are subjected by outside influences.
I can see how you would think of it.
But I think Henry might be the exception here because he's been a bit of a rebel in so much as that he's turned down his profession as a chippy and chosen his occupation, but that doesn't identify him. I think as an individual, he has been.
You've just disproven your own point.
Yeah, that's strange. That's quite consistent, isn't it? That's quite consistent. You as an individual, your character, you haven't changed that much, have you?
You've ducked and dived, and then.
But then, if you take you and I, I think I was subjected to outside influences, and I think we're all the time being bombarded by it, and I don't think that we can help it a lot of the time, and we just, rather than go against the grain, we just say, all right, whatever it is, and you just move along, don't you? Really?
There you go. You've just agreed with the fact that it's partly given, partly accepted, and partly chosen, because that whole thing, all you've said, and what I would respectfully disagree with is that you say the majority of us don't have that. I think actually the majority of us are all formed that way.
Yeah.
Our identities, our values.
So the answer to the question is no. It's identity chosen, and it's not exclusively. But in part, yes.
Well, if it's partly yes, then the answer is yes.
No, it's in part yes, not yes.
What?
The difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Henry. Is identity chosen? Yes. And it is given and it is accepted.
So that's a long-winded way. You say, is identity chosen? And you're saying
yes.
No, in part.
No, okay.
Right.
I'll clean that up and I'll say, is identity chosen? Yes.
No.
So your initial answer was it's chosen, given, and accepted, but you don't have to accept the identities that you're given.
That's true.
So doesn't that prove you can choose it? Because, like,
Yeah.
like I'll make an interesting point, because I am sort of saying that
In
we
part,
choose it,
but
but
I think identity.
let me finish my point. Let me finish my
Yeah.
point. I don't feel like I chose to be a Christian, really. Like, I genuinely feel like that's something that happened to me, because,
Well, that was imposed on you. That was because
well,
it was there.
Let him talk.
Oh, go on.
like, you didn't know me before I was talking about Jesus, John, but, like, you know, I was not that sort of person in any way. If someone would have started talking to me about God, I would have laughed and said, "Oh, the man in the clouds, this and that." Like, just like, what? I genuinely feel as though I've been called towards that,
Yeah.
and it's not something that I came up with on my own or went towards in any way. Because, you know, when, you know, like, the idea of reading the Bible and stuff, it just, like, it's so far away from the person that I was, that I can, that's the thing that I keep being called to. That's like, okay, well, there is an element of this that is deeper than just, oh, we choose. But what I can see from my own experience is you can certainly shape the person you want to be. And if you're, like I said earlier, if you're in a place you don't want to be right now, it could be so easy to feel trapped and say, oh, well, this is who I am. And, oh, that thing isn't for me because that person's done it. He's better than me. He's got better circumstances. He's got better genetic. That's all bollocks. You can shape, you can truly mold your life in a way that, like, most people wouldn't believe if you make conscious effort to do it. And a lot of people probably don't think about it this deeply, but if you make true conscious effort, like, we live in a world of cause and effect, you can make things happen, and your identity changes when you start seeing evidence towards certain things. You start to believe about yourself in a different way, you know. So
To a
I think,
certain extent as well, you know, if you're living in Africa and you sometimes you're born into it, you know. Sometimes you're born handicapped and you can't change that, you know. There are some things that I believe you can shape your own destiny. I don't believe in fate, but I believe you can change. You can shape your destiny, and that would be, you know, you can sort of, like, by a bit of hard work and diligence, you can get this. You can pass the subjects you need to be a lawyer, for example. You can study, or you can take exams and be a scuba diver, or you know, whatever it is, you can shape your own destiny for sure. But as you know, I'm not so, but I don't believe in fate. So to say, I don't believe that, you know.
that's another podcast, I think, mate.
If you're born with only without any legs, you can be, you know, the fastest person in the world on two legs, for example, or, you know, I don't know what it is. You know, if you've only got one eye, are you going to be any good at tennis? It's going to be tricky, isn't it? So it's,
well, you know, again, there's a level of acceptance and things going on there as well, isn't there? Like, Michael Bisping lost an eye, didn't he? And he carried on fighting, and that was against
oh
the
yeah,
rules.
yeah. Well,
And
the
that would have
British guy.
been enough for most people to say, oh, well, I'll never fight again. And he shouldn't be allowed to fight again. But rather than accepting that, he literally broke the rules to carry on fighting and carried on fucking people up with one eye. Like,
Yeah, no.
that's a mentality wise, that's a different level, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so.
No, I hear what you're saying, though, and there are some people that push back. You know,
Yeah.
there's some. Bear Grylls, was it Bear Grylls? He fell off Mount Everest or whatever, and he broke his back. He said he was never going to walk again. But the mentality of the person was that he just pushed through, and he was determined to a point of no return, and he pushed through, and he's well, look what he does. So I think that's fair enough. But, you know, if you lose your legs, that's it, isn't it? Really, you know, you can get artificial limbs and you can try again. And there are some people that do that. I mean, I know there's a lot of mountain climbers lose their fingers. And for some, it's enough and they stop. And others, that they go, well, it is what it is, and they carry on. But yeah, I don't know.
Again, it's like, what do you perceive as your identity, though? Is it your physical things? Okay, I don't have legs, or is it the truth about who you are and what's going on? And, like, even that example, I've seen people do some extraordinary things without legs, and it's like you can embody the thing that's happened to you on a deep level, and, you know, or you can make it more about character and, you know,
and there are some
not
people that will pursue that and fail. So, you know, I think that's the people that are successful are the exception, not the rule.
Well, it depends what you define as a success, etc., isn't it?
What they set out to do.
But what I hear is going on is that it's about what we accept or what we don't.
Yeah.
And also from a spiritual point of view, I think it's about energy, emotion, really. There are physical things that your hardware, if you like, of being a human being, and then there's the software or the stuff that we can't really see or know about so much, which is the spirit behind our lives and our existence. And those two things can be separated, but aren't separate things. But it's what we make of it, from my point of view, which kind of gives you the success or not, because it depends how you're defining what you want to do, how you're going about it, and how you're being about it, which gives spirit, as a high or a low vibe kind of entity, really. And that's what comes through us as us. But our identity, from that point of view, as a somebody who's spiritual in nature, is purely made up and accepted and defined on a level of form that doesn't have the capacity to describe what our formless spirit is. So therefore, it's a difficult conversation.
There's a bit of a contradiction there for me, Tim, because it's funny because that's almost what I was trying to get to earlier, right? Like, now we've taken it to spirituality. Like, for me, our soul is like our personality, our will. Like, some people, talking about John saying losing legs, some people will have an unwavering desire, a fire inside to not let this thing define them. And some people just won't. It'll break them instantly, and they're like crippled for, internally for life. And that's it. And like, that for me is something that's unchanging. I don't think you can get that. When people say, oh, he's got heart, this is it. Like, this idea that there's an underlying truth to who we are. Like, forget the perception and all this. Like, there's an underlying. Some people have just got heart. Some people are just this way inclined. Some people are just this way inclined. And like, I truly believe there's an underlying something going on. Maybe our soul, and that's what I would say it is, that precedes all of this. And like, which is why I'm saying partially there's an underlying truth rather than just the perception.
I get where you're pointing to, but I struggle with that, and that's why I say it's difficult conversation, because like when you're trying to describe the formless nature of something that we are before we are this human being, you then get wrapped up into, okay, so what's a soul? What's a spirit? What's a personality? Are they one and the same? Are they separate things? You start to pigeonhole and label and put form to things that are just way beyond our understanding and ken, and is just part of our true nature, which, as we have agreed, all three of us, we don't understand. It just is something. I think part of our nature tries to make sense of all of this stuff, and I question the validity of doing that, really, because yes, there is a spirit and a soul behind all of us, and we are driven and nudged toward, or called, as you said earlier, to do certain things. And that's the most important thing, isn't it? Regardless of what other people think you should be doing, regardless of what other people think you are, regardless of all of that stuff, that's living in alignment with perhaps your truest self, whatever that is.
Aside of like you using words to pigeonhole people, these labels help conversations happen as well, right? And like, if our true nature is our soul and our will is part of that, like, you can actually see that in the real world. Like, you've seen people with more heart than other people. You know, that's something you can feel. Like, and some people might say, oh, that's chemicals in the brain, they've got more dopamine. You might be able to explain it like that, possibly. But for me, there's something underlying that is like, I've felt that from certain people. Some people are just high vibe and some people just aren't. Like,
Yeah.
and that can't be broken or changed. Like this idea of like, you can't steal my spirit, you can kill me, you can lock me up, you can whatever. Like, I believe in that. I feel like I've seen that, and I feel like some people have got more than others in that sense, you know? More will, more desire, more passion, like, and I don't think it's down to, oh, more dopamine or personally.
No, I love that, Henry. And,
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that you can't kill somebody's um, character. I think people try to do it, but you can't. You can't change that. And I keep switching back into the con men series that I watched as well. There was another guy who was a German man, and he built a Ponzi for 500 million or something like that. And Barclays invested. Everybody. It was a huge, huge deal. And they put him in prison, and he sat. And he said, the interviewer said, "So, you went to prison. How did you find that?" He said, "Well, it's crazy. I mean, I ain't going to change me. That's the way. This is the way I am. I'm putting in prison ain't going to change it any. So it's. I think you're right. I think people have an innate character, a baseline character. They may have a lot of heart. They have a propensity to they may be gifted in different ways. You may be an artist. But I don't think that you may choose to. Some people are given a gift, like they're born with a gift, and they choose not to use it, and they'll go elsewhere and try and have a different identity rather than the one that used the gift that was given to them. So in that case, then is that person? How would you define that person? Is it the one that they've developed themselves, or the one that they were born with?
You can define them how you like. It's up to them to choose.
Yeah, but the question is that what are they as an identity? Are they the one that they were born with, or the one that they developed?
Well, the interesting thing about this part of our conversation, and I think it's really rich actually, is that we've jumped levels from what I can see. From a spiritual point of view, we're kind of like we've gone from soul spirit level back into kind of human form level, and I think we kind of do that as humans to try and make sense of it,
Rationalize it, yeah,
and to rationalize it and to logically understand it. And
well, I do. I like to boil it down to simple things like that example. If you're born with a gift, should you identify it as the person with that gift, or the one that you chosen to follow yourself?
And I respect that, John, especially from a nihilistic point of view. It makes kind of sense to live your life like that. But I kind of,
I mean, it's a question. It's not. It's well. Oh, it means like boiling it down to the.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether there is any sense in kind of trying to do that, because as we've acknowledged, it kind of erases or deletes some of the stuff that could be available to us beyond.
But it goes back to Henry's. It's the truth, isn't it? The truth is that you're born with a gift, and that is your identity. Really, that's the truth. And the one that your persona, what you project, that's the false one, really, is it? I think maybe
that's part of what we're talking about from my perspective.
Yeah, I don't. The thing is which is correct, which is the right identity. And if we were to take Henry's analogy, it's the truth. So the truth is what are you born with? That's the truth, because that was, if you like, it was God given.
The truth is what Henry.
Yeah,
phrased it.
rather than what you see yourself, as. That's your ego, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm saying that our ego and our perceived, accepted, and chosen and given identity actually gets in the way of that.
Yeah. So, should we strive for the truth, or should we follow our ego?
Oh, definitely truth, always in my book.
Right. So that if you decide to change, so you have to go back to basics, then, don't you? Really, and find out
what I'm saying, John, is
what your qualities are. What were you born with? And
I don't need to do anything.
That.
No, I'm saying I don't need to do anything. I can accept that, there is a truth that I'm not getting.
Well, what's your truth then?
Hang on a second. I'm not getting any closer by asking questions like that or trying to logically and rationally work it out. I am closer to it when I let go of that stuff, recognize that that is a layer that is constructed in my human form that kind of can ultimately take me away from that truth.
Yeah. So, and in order to find the truth, you need to go back to see what your God-given gift was.
Well, some people talk about Akashic records and stuff like that, don't they?
Talk about what?
Is it Akashic records? Sort of
classic.
No, I don't know the phrase, but
okay, use one you know.
Sorry,
use the phrase you know.
Well, I think it's Akashic records. The theory that as a soul, as an entity, we kind of make some sort of contract about what it is that we're coming here to do on planet Earth and what we want to learn and experience.
But if you go back far enough,
I don't necessarily believe that, but I just
okay. But just a question: if you go back, if you can think back far enough, is there something that you feel that you were born with that you could identify with?
Yes, many things.
What would be the most prominent?
I can't give you a hierarchy of those things, but it would be joy, music, nature, relationships, people.
Well, I think relationships comes before, doesn't it? After. I mean, if you look at,
I told you I couldn't give you a hierarchy for those things. The more that you go down the rational, logical.
I'm just examining this.
I know
you as well as myself. I'm at the time of asking the same question to you. I'm also thinking about myself, and I would like to ask Henry really as well. I mean, if I was, go on.
Science tells us that apparently like young people don't have empathy. Like your brain doesn't develop in a right kind of way for you to feel empathy until you're like 5 or 6 years old. I remember I was very empathetic at a very, very young age, for sure. Like little things would affect me. I would feel sorry for other people. I remember like some lad dropping his balloon and he went up into the air, and I remember crying just because I'd seen that it upset him so much. So like, I don't know, I feel like that's something built into me. I feel like I've always been more empathetic than most people.
And you see children that can play the drums at 5 and things like that. Whether it was forced on them by their parents, I don't know. But you feel that a God-given gift to you was empathy. Is that right?
Possibly. I don't.
I mean, I'm thinking for myself at the same time. But if so if someone would say describe yourself without telling me your occupation, you would, one of the qualities that, or one of the descriptive words that you might use would be that you have empathy.
Yeah. Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, I would say intuition, actually, new word that I hadn't put on the list, but then I kind of like thought a bit more about some of those things that I've talked about, and the strand is an intuitive one. So I think that's one of the words that I would use to describe my inner essence. But it's really difficult.
When did you get? What age do you have intuition?
I was very young when I had like intuitive thought. Yeah, a bit like
But a lot of children have intuitive thoughts, don't they?
Exactly.
I would say children have it more often because they're less programmed at that point. You know, it's like as
we're
you
all
grow,
intuitive, aren't they? It's if you're not intuitive, you've got an issue. If you sit there and you're not really interested in, Spot the dog in the books, or you don't want to listen to nursery rhymes or stuff like that. I mean, when the sort of thing when did you? I mean, I've got a propensity for breaking things and putting it back together again. That's just me all over. And people have said that to me. They say, you're like a frustrated engineer, really. And I do. I remember one of the first things when I found a black and white TV had been thrown out on my paper round. And I picked it up and put it in my bag, and I lumped this bloody thing all the way home and took it apart. Found out that there was the cable to the cathode tube had split, so I put some insulation tape around it, not knowing that if I turned it on and I put my finger on it, it would have killed me stone dead. But I put it on and I got myself a TV. My sisters, they all had bikes. I had hand-me-downs. I had pink bikes and stuff like that. And I was the kid that we used to drag these wrecks down the lane and bring them home and tear them all up and make my own bike, a boy's bike with gears and cow horns and that stuff like that. So I've got a propensity. I knew it. I've always born with this idea of building things. I know that is my God-given gift, I think.
Well, you said you like to take it apart and put it back together. That's ironically what you're sort of doing in this conversation. It's like people say that they do that to like really understand something. If you could take it apart, see the inner workings of it, break it all down, and then rebuild it, it's like trying to understand it on a deep level. And that's sort of what I see you're doing now with.
And I did it with my dad's watches. I'd look and he said, "What's the matter with that watch, Dad?" And he said, "It don't work." And I'd open the back up and look at it and compare other watches and swap things around and see how it worked. That was always a thing for me, and always developing on things as well. So I know that if really that is my identity. Is that I'm very curious. I'm a curious person, but in an electrical mechanical aspect.
So I would say
spiritually that came later. But certainly from an earlier age, I would most definitely, that was where I was at.
It's a propensity. It's not perhaps who you are. And it denies aspects of yourself, like the dancer, that exist as part of that story as well.
That's true. That's true. But from the early levels, I remember things. I've always gone into the garage, got my dad's tools and stuff like that. That's always been me. Being a dancer, that's what I wanted to do. But I think that was I may have been conditioned into that by watching Elvis Presley and doing all those watching the Elvis Presley movies in the morning, and all the dancing and singing and stuff like that.
Great movies. But I think we are all conditioned into believing, partly what you're describing and what you're explaining here is an example of how we come to an accepted identity. You're kind of like describing the story that justifies and evidences that aspect of your identity, but it's not fully who you are, is it? Who you are is an amazing.
That's the truth, though. I think as we get older, we like to change things to fit into things because we have aspirations to do different things. But I think when you're born with a God-given gift, I think that's the truth.
Oh, I don't know whether that's truth.
Well, I think so, because there is no outside, there's no bias. If you like. I don't like to use the expression, but that was the gift you were given when you were born. That's your true identity, isn't it?
It's one that you were curious and passionate enough to follow.
No. That was something that you did innately. You weren't honed into doing it or programmed into doing it. It was something that you did innately.
Yeah, no, I get that. It is part of your innate being. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that from that perspective, that's the truth, really. That's what you are. And you know, I think if you're real with yourself, you know, if you go back to really think back about, I mean, all kids are curious, Tim, but if you go back to what was can you remember were you a reader? Were you a writer? You know, because some kids can't help themselves. They were like, you can't leave a book alone. As soon as, I know my two nephews, for example, I went round to see my sister used to say, you know, can you look after the two boys for a minute? Yeah, sit down. I say, right, okay. And we sit down and I say, let's do some drawing. And I'll do some drawing. I'll bring this blank piece of paper to life. And I looked at the boys and said, right, it's your go now. One was delighted. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He was like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. And the other one was like, whatever. And he was, and the one that was whatever didn't really do a picture. The other one, he went right down the rabbit hole, and month in and month out, year in and year out, couldn't help himself. He found that he was very good at what he was doing. He was bringing life on the page, and that was, I think that was an innate quality. I didn't show him that. Well, I showed him that, but there was a quality that he had in him. The other boy, no interest, not at all. He would rather come up to me and go, let's have a fight. Yeah. Or the other one would be in the corner painting a picture. So, I mean,
it seems like maybe you're changing your position slightly, John, as the convo is going on.
But no. The thing is, I suppose I think that was an aspect. When I think of it, I mean, some of it is, I hear what you're saying, Henry, is that perhaps I was trying a certain amount of conditioning I gave those boys, but perhaps I had just opened it up and said, have a look at this, you know, and it was one boy ran with it and the other boy rejected it, you know. I didn't sit them down every single time and say, right, let's do some drawing. You know,
one accepted it, one didn't. One had an innate propensity to it, arguably, and one chose it, one didn't. It's kind of like
there was only two. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with mine now. Anyway, let's wrap this up, because it's.
I thought that was quite. We're going. Yeah, all right, and yeah, I think we should do. But I don't know. I think that when it comes to my takeaway from this is that is it chosen? I said it can be, but I think I've learned from this, and I think I've taken on board what Henry said, and I think he you know, and I think that everybody's got a gift. It's just finding it first, and if you find that what you're good at, I think that's the label that you should run with, because that's truth. And if we're gonna go with truth, I think we should all explore that, and I think go with what you were given, rather than being something that you're not. That's my takeaway. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, well, I would say that we can certainly shape our identity. I do think there's something underlying going on, like I said. But yeah, man. Tim left. What happened there?
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Yeah,
it's possibly a technical error. Well, I guess we won't get to hear Tim's closing statement.
Poor old Tim.
Well, I guess we'll wrap it up then. Thanks for watching, everyone.
I wonder if it's going to come back. Should we?
It's not recording anymore, is it? Oh no, it is. Okay, cool.
Starts in 30 minutes.
Well, thanks for watching, guys.
Wait a minute, Henry. Don't go so soon.
From your calendar.
You're going to try and bring him back?
Force Radio starts in 30
let's
minutes.
see what he's doing. He's run out of data because he synced it to his phone. Yeah. What? What are we doing? Knew we were over time. All frozen. Oh dear. It is all going mad here at the moment.
Are we back?
Oh, is he? He's back again.
Legend.
So Timothea,
So we should wrap this up.
what's your takeaway?
I think, yes, identity is chosen. It's also innate, it is given, and it is accepted.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Who do you think is going to win the football?
I think it will be an England-Morocco final, with England being
Really? So you think that we're
world
going to?
champions?
You think we're going to? Oh, well, Morocco play Argentina.
That's right. Yeah.
So it won't.
No,
They
they play France.
They play
Oh
France.
no, that's right. Yeah, Morocco play France. That's right. Yeah.
So who do Argentina play?
What the
Spain.
fuck are we on this for anyway?
We're going to round it up with predictions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's based on nothing other than what I would
Gut
love
feeling.
to happen.
I love so Moroccan England final.
Yeah.
Well, I'm predicting that it's a France-England final, and I think France win it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the obvious prediction, isn't it? And based on what
the
France...
obvious one would be a France-Argentina.
No, well, no, because
Possibly.
Argentina haven't been playing better than England.
Yeah, I think we've been playing better football,
Yeah,
to be honest.
agreed.
Well, they have in recent games. I'd agree that last one with Mexico was absolute out of this world. The best England match I've ever watched in my life. You know, I think I'd have to put that on. Considering the altitude, considering the pre-performances, you know, with the people singing and dancing outside the hotel rooms, and then the weather and everything. I think that was just, and the history, of course, Maradona, the hand of God at the stadium. I think there was so much. It made for an epic game, that one.
Yeah.
And I think they did. They turned up, and they turned up like the Lions that they are. But they've got ahead of them like Norway and then potentially Argentina before they meet France in the final. And I think, having seen what the Argentinians did in the last 20 minutes of their game, they're going to need to pick, but you know, that's going to be another epic game. That's if we get
Fucking right.
Yeah. But I'm hopeful that they'll get there. But my gut feeling is it'll be a France-Argentinian final.
Well, I'm actually from the future, and I've already seen us beat Argentina. So, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, Messi.
All right, then.
Yep.
Okay, okie dokie. All right, guys. Thanks for your times.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, John left.